Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is JC Cortez, and I'm the Director of Training and Development here at Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that we are broadcasting today's event live on our Facebook page. So we want to give a warm welcome to those of you joining us via Facebook Live. Thank you so much for being here. We are also recording this, and a link will be shared with you in a follow-up email after this presentation. A few words about Synergia. Synergia is a multi-service agency located in Harlem and here in Manhattan that's been supporting New Yorkers with disabilities and their families for more than 40 years. We offer a rich source of information and training tailored for parents, including parents whose primary language is not English or who they themselves have special training needs. We help them participate more effectively in their children's education and development, and we partner with professionals and policymakers to improve outcomes for all children with disabilities like we have today. Synergia, which is Spanish for synergy, is one of New York City's 3 federally funded parent centers, of which we are always collaborating and uplifting each other's work, from our partners being Include NYC and Advocates for Children. We also add an emphasis on serving people with disabilities and their families with an added focus on communities of color and the economically disadvantaged. Synergia creates innovative programs ranging from transitional housing for homeless families who have children with disabilities, parenting classes for adults who they themselves have developmental disabilities, and parent and education advocacy training for parents of children with disabilities. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. We are recording this, and you will receive a link to the recording as well as the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is available in English and Spanish. And if you have any questions at any time, please ask them. We encourage you to ask questions. If we haven't answered your question sufficiently, please ask it in another way. We're happy to try and get you the answer that you want or need. And we just hope that everybody leaves here with a greater understanding of the topic for today. So yes, please ask your questions away at any time. Feel free. For those of you joining us on Facebook Live, please add your questions to the comment section. And we also ask that if your questions are very case specific, for the sake of privacy, this is a public forum and being broadcast on Facebook. So please, if you have a case specific question that's very detailed, we ask that you reach out to either us or to our presenters. So thanks for joining us. This is a 4-part series on specialized programs in special education in New York City. Series where we are partnering with the Department of Education to cover the Bilingual Special Education program, as well as the ACES program, the ASD Nest and Horizons program, as well as the AIMS program, which is through the Office of District 75. Today, we will cover the Department of Education's Bilingual Special Education program, and we are delighted to be joined by our partners at the DOE, Carolina Liriano, Director of Bilingual Special Education Programs, and Michelle Netzler, the Senior Director of Specialized Programs, ACES, ASD, and BSE programs for the Special Education Office within the Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support. Thanks for being here, ladies. We're absolutely happy that you can both join us today, and welcome to Synergia.
Thank you so much, JC. Thank you for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. My name, as JC has stated, is Carolina Liriano. I am the Director of Bilingual Special Education Programs with the New York City Department of Education. A little bit about my background. I was a school psychologist in the Bronx in Districts 7 and 9 as a bilingual Spanish clinician. So I have experience working in the schools before I transitioned to my current role. I am excited to be sharing information with you today about bilingual special education programs, specifically in districts 1 through 32. And before I begin, I just want to remind or mention that while our team manages bilingual special education programs in districts 1 through 32, there are also bilingual special education programs offered in District 75. Placement in those programs, however, is managed by a separate District 75 team. Okay, so let's dive right in. So we have provided an introduction, and this is just our agenda for today. We're going to be discussing what is bilingual special education, what are the considerations that are taken in the bilingual assessment process for a student that is learning English and is also being evaluated for disability. We're going to be reviewing the language of instruction for bilingual special education recommended students and the process that we we go through when we're inquiring about placement in these programs. So what is bilingual special education? Bilingual special education programs are a specialized program that are not expected to exist in every district school. However, the Department of Education does recognize that there are students who may be better served in programs in which a specialized program model and expertise has been developed. In this case, the bilingual component in a special education program. Special education supports and services that do not currently exist in all schools in the district are considered specialized programs, and one of those is bilingual special education. Now, something to note is that most multilingual learners or English learners will be using those terms interchangeably throughout the presentation. Most multilingual learners, English language learners with IEPs, are served in monolingual special education programs in district schools and supported with English as new language services. What does this mean? This means that for the most part, most of our Ls with IEPs have a language of instruction of English and are being served with English as a new language, or what you may have known to be referred to as English as a second language. So this is support that students receive in the classroom along their peers. Now, English learners with disabilities recommended for bilingual special education have very unique learning needs that are stemming they're a direct result from their disability, which is impacting the way that they're learning a new language, in this case, English. So think about, if your child is classified with a disability, whether it's a learning disability or a speech or language impairment, the idea is that this disability is impacting the way that the student is learning. And so similarly, the way that they're learning a new language is going to be affected, right? Now, BSE programs allow the teachers to meet the needs of students by using the home language as an instructional tool in a special education program. This means that the teachers are going to be speaking in the language that your child speaks and teaching in that language in order to help the child access the instruction. Now let's move to the next slide. So bilingual special education programs are IEP driven. This means that no application is necessary. So as long as the IEP recommends a language of service other than English, the student will be able to access the BSE program if one is available. Because this is a specialized program that does not exist in every school, students may need to transfer to access this type of program. And as a result, they may receive transportation to the BSE program school. And bilingual special education programs, as we will be discussing today, are essentially a combination of a special education program and a bilingual program. And these programs include either the integrated co-teaching class or the special class, which can follow different ratios, whether that's 12:1, 12:1:1, or 15:1. Now, these programs can follow either the bilingual program model that is dual language or transitional bilingual education. And we'll be discussing the difference between these two types of programs in these next two slides. So this is how we define special education programs in the New York City Department of Education. So we have ICT classrooms and we have special classes. An integrated co-teaching classroom includes both students with disabilities and students without disabilities. And there are two teachers in this class. There's a general educator and a special educator. What makes a bilingual special education program different, is that these programs are bilingual. So in a bilingual ICT program, both teachers will be able to support your child in their home language and in English. The teachers work together and they collaborate to adapt and modify the instruction to ensure that the entire class has access to the general education curriculum. So they are ensuring that both the general education students and the special education students are both experiencing success in the classroom. A special class differs in that it only serves students with disabilities. So special classes serve children whose needs cannot be met within the general education classroom, even if they receive special education services in that class. In a bilingual class, in a bilingual special class, the teacher can support the students in their home language and in English. Again, this is what makes the bilingual special education program. The skills and expertise level that the teachers bring with their language. Now, some, but not all, special classes in districts 1 through 32 may have a classroom paraprofessional. This additional adult in the classroom also speaks the home language of the child in a bilingual special class. Here we explain the differences between the bilingual program models. So we've covered the special education program models, which is ICT and special class. And now these two bilingual program models are what make a bilingual special education program. So in a dual language program, students are taught in two languages, English and their home language, such as Spanish or Mandarin. The goal of this program is for students to be able to read, write, and speak in both English and their home language. In these classes, dual language classes, the home language and English are used equally. So the goal here is to develop bilingualism, biliteracy, and a cross-cultural understanding in both languages. So students are becoming proficient. They are able to read, write, and speak in both languages. In a transitional bilingual education program, you have reading, writing, and other classes in English and in the child's home language. However, as the students are gaining English language skills, then time spent learning in English increases, so that once the student is no longer identified as a student that is an English learner or a student that needs support in learning a new language, he or she will exit the program into a monolingual class. So the goals of these two programs are very, very different. In a dual language program, we're maintaining both languages. In a transitional bilingual education program, the goal is to transition the child into a monolingual class. Now, this pie chart gives us a better idea of the number of bilingual special education students in the context of all English learners with IEPs. The reason why we're showing this to you is because, as we mentioned before, the vast majority of ELs with IEPs, English learners with IEPs, have monolingual recommendations on their IEPs, and their needs can be met with an ENL, or what we knew as ESL, English as a new language or English as a second language. Out of all ELs with IEPs, only 13% have this bilingual designation on their IEP, this language of service other than English on their IEP. So as you can see from this chart, from this picture here, most students that are learning a new language are in monolingual programs. This is a look at where we have our programs currently for the school year, for school year 21-22. Currently, we have bilingual special education classes in 86 schools in districts 1 through 32. We have a total of 298 classes. 182 of those classes follow the ICT program model, and 116 of those follow the special class program model. And you'll see the breakdown for the bilingual program model underneath each of those. The language of service currently being offered in bilingual special education programs is Spanish and Mandarin.
Carolina, we have a
Mhm.
question from one of our fellow advocates.
Sure.
Is there a list of the BSE program schools?
There is a list of all bilingual programs, which includes bilingual general education and bilingual special education. And that is a list that we can certainly share with you. It is public facing on the DOE website.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Of course. We have another visual here to help you kind of, see, visualize where our classes are. So you'll be able to see that most of our bilingual special education classes are in Manhattan, followed by Bronx and Queens, which are tied with 67. And then we have Brooklyn with 37 and Staten Island with 16. So these are our 298 classes in districts 1 through 32. So how is bilingual special education reflected on the IEP? So this is an example. This is an example of an ICT recommended student that's been recommended for a bilingual Spanish program. So you'll notice that all the subjects, except for English language arts, which is meant to be taught in English, all the subjects have Spanish. Now, the special education program model is recommended on this page, but not whether or not the program is transitional bilingual education or dual language. Only the language that the student will need support in is included on the IEP. And then depending on the program availability, we will offer whether it's a dual language program or a transitional bilingual education program. Now, I want to be clear that just because it says Spanish for, for example, let's look at the first IEP, the first recommendation, just because it says Spanish for math and Spanish for science and social studies, it doesn't mean that instruction will be in Spanish all day, right? This will depend on the bilingual program model for that particular class, whether it is transitional bilingual education or dual language program, it would all depend, okay? Now, these are some considerations in the bilingual assessment process. So these are the things that we want IEP teams, which includes you, the family, things for you to think about when a child is being assessed and when a child is being considered for a bilingual program. Since we've been talking about English learners that are being considered for a disability, or we're thinking about whether or not they meet the needs for special education, we're doing so with certain assumptions. And these are the criteria that we have when we're looking at an IEP for an English learner. We are working under the assumption that that student has had a comprehensive individualized evaluation in English and in their home language, which considers their cultural and unique factors about that particular student, right? So what does this mean? This means that if your child is bilingual, is learning a new language, that child should be evaluated by a bilingual clinician, right? The results of that evaluation need to identify the student as having one of the 13 disability classifications, which we've listed here for you on the right. Okay, so whether that be autism, intellectual disability, learning disability, other health impairment, these are one of the 13 classifications that the student must meet the criteria for in order to have an IEP. And finally, last but not least, the determining factor for being eligible for one of these disability criteria, disability classifications, cannot be limited English proficiency or lack of appropriate instruction. What does this mean? This means that if a child when we're learning a new language, we go through a process, right? It takes 5 to 7 years for a child to develop fluency and proficiency in a language. It takes time. So we cannot say that a child has a disability and needs special education services if they're simply going through the process of learning a new language. Similarly, we cannot say that a child has a disability if they've lacked appropriate instruction, if the child hasn't attended school, or has had very poor attendance for whatever reason. So that's what that last bullet on the left means.
Carolina, we do have a question here from one of our advocates at Include NYC, and that's
Sure.
they're curious, why are there more programs in Manhattan when there are so many more L's in the Bronx and Queens, possibly Brooklyn? Good question.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are programs that have existed for several, even before I was in this role, we've had this conversation before amongst team members. I think that the need in the community, reflects, the programs, the school wanted to have these dual language or transitional bilingual education programs, and opened up the programs based on their own need in the community.
Is there an effort to increase the amount of these programs in those respective boroughs?
Absolutely. We work with superintendents, principals, based on the number of students that have these recommendations. We are oftentimes working on creating programs where there is a need, where the students have the recommendation for bilingual special education.
Is there something parents can do in terms of advocating for BSE program in their district?
I mean, I would encourage them to speak with their respective schools, see if they're, evaluate the need in the district, in the particular school. What makes it a little challenging is that, whenever we have, think about that pie chart that we showed with the 13% of bilingual special education students. The 13%, this is scattered throughout the city, right? And so there might be one student in, fifth grade in one school, there might be two students in third grade in another school. They might have different program recommendations, they might speak other languages. And so the goal here is to evaluate demographic shifts, look at where the student need is, and we're continually working on evaluating where that need is to open programs where they're needed, right?
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
All right, so when we're considering a bilingual special education program, when we're determining that the language of instruction and services for an English learner might be other than English, we are going to be looking at that individualized evaluation in English and the student's home language. Again, very, very important that we're evaluating the child bilingually. So that we understand the whole child and the student's abilities and skills in both languages, right? We're going to be looking at the social history, which you as the family, as a parent, are a part of during this process. We're looking at how the student expresses him or herself, how they understand information in their home language and in English. We're looking at information like the nicest lat, which you might have heard. This is the New York State English as a second language achievement test. This test is administered annually to understand the language proficiency of all English learners in grades K through 12. And this test gives us an idea of how the student is progressing through those stages of language acquisition. We're going to want to know about the family's home language and the use of that home language in English, and the student's educational history. Has the student been enrolled in a bilingual program before? Did that student experience success in a bilingual program? And then we're going to be looking at teachers' observations of the student's work. We're going to be looking at assessments that have been done in the student's home language and in English. And finally, last but not least, we're going to be considering your thoughts, your concerns, your preferences as a family. Families may have concerns about their child's being in a bilingual program. They may not want their child to receive that kind of support, or they may really want that kind of support. So these are things that we want the IEP team, which includes you, to think about when we're considering the language of instruction to be other than English on the IEP.
We have another question here, and it says that you mentioned that only the language is indicated on the IEP
Mhm,
and not which BSE program, for example, TBE or DL,
mhm.
and that the choice depends on program eligibility. However,
Availability.
availability. Okay.
Yes. So
Uh,
for example, if we're in District 6 and the child has, if we're in Manhattan somewhere and the child has a bilingual ICT recommendation and there are two schools that have the program available, that would be ideal, right? If one school has the program available and it's a transitional bilingual education program and the other school has a dual language program available, this is the ideal perfect situation where we might be able to offer the parent a choice. But more often than not, there might only be one that's, close enough to the student where it will be, a plausible, offer to make. And we would be making the offer to the closest program to the child, right? Because we also want to avoid the child traveling a significantly long distance to the school that offers the program.
sure. Yeah, the
Mhm.
rest of the question was considering the different goals of both models,
Mhm.
do families get a choice depending on what
Mhm.
they prefer for their
Mhm.
students?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So if we have a choice, if there's a choice to, offer, we definitely do. However, I will say that for the most part, this will happen for ICT classes. All of our special classes typically follow the transitional bilingual education program model. This is because it allows a little bit more flexibility for our students that have the most need in these self-contained special education classes.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so after you've considered all of these questions that we've looked at, all of these factors, we're going to get to the question of, okay, does a student require bilingual special education supports and services, right? So based on the review, we're going to need certain people to be a part of that team, right? Including the family. So we're going to need a licensed social worker, psychologist, teacher, or speech provider with the bilingual ability to be able to speak the language of the child. And the IEP team will reach one of two decisions. Bilingual instruction services are not required and their needs can be met with ENL or ESL, as we might have known it from over a decade ago, or bilingual instructional services are required. And if bilingual instructional services are required, the IEP team will explain to you, the family, the different program models that are available. As I indicated earlier, as a result of that question that we received, JC, there is a list that is available for families, IEP teams, where you can view the number of bilingual programs citywide. So not just general education programs, but special education programs. So you might look at that list and say to the family, you might hear from the IEP team, there are a couple programs in the district. We're going to inquire with the bilingual special education team, and depending on seat availability, we will get back to you on whether a program is available. But putting that bug in your ear and thinking about whether or not this is something that you want to consider for your child. Right. So as we've mentioned previously, these are programs that do not exist in every district school, and your child may need to transfer to another school to receive the supports of a BSE program. But because of this, the student will have access to transportation. A very important part of once a student has been recommended for bilingual special education, a very important part of the process is to continuously review the language of instruction on the IEP. So as I indicated, IEP teams, they include you as the parent. We should be reviewing the language of instruction for students recommended for bilingual special education throughout the school year, whether it be through an annual, a reevaluation, whatever it may be. We need to understand where the child is at their particular stage of learning a new language, and we need to assess whether or not the child continues to need bilingual special education, a bilingual special education program recommendation. Many families, oftentimes, once the child is, knows sufficient English, wants the child to transition into a monolingual class. So these are the things that, we want you to consider, we want you to review alongside with the IEP team every year, so that we can ensure that the child is in the most appropriate program. This is, now we're going to cover, this is the final section of our presentation, we're going to cover the process for requesting placement in districts 1 through 32. As long as an ICT or special class program is recommended with a language of instruction other than English, then the child is eligible for placement in a bilingual special education program. After the IEP has been finalized with the bilingual ICT or bilingual special class recommendation, a staff member of the school will contact the Central BSE Programs team to find a bilingual special education program. You or the school staff may contact us at any time during the year to submit an inquiry about the placement or ask any questions you might have. And this right here is our email, which you can reach us at directly, bseprograms@schools.nyc.gov. And just a reminder, as JC indicated, this presentation and all this information will be shared with you later on, right, JC? Okay. All right, so If the central BSE program team is able to offer placement in a BSE program that is at a reasonable distance from your home and the school has an available seat, you will receive what's called a school location letter or a school assignment form. And this letter will provide the school's name, location, and contact information. With this letter, you can visit the school and you can decide whether or not you'll be accepting the placement offer, right? As again, I know we've repeated this a few times, but if the school is not near your home, your child may receive transportation. Now, if the BSE team cannot identify an available bilingual special education class for your child, the student can be supported with a bilingual paraprofessional in a monolingual English ICT or special class until a BSE program becomes available. So this is a way to support the child while the child is awaiting placement. This person is bilingual and will be working alongside the teacher to support your child in this classroom.
Carolina, when it
Mhm.
when it comes to that situation where they're in a holding pattern, how long are they typically in that holding pattern? Is it subjective or is it?
It all depends on the child, on the child's recommendation, on our availability in that particular district. But we have access to all of the students that have these recommendations, and we're continually reviewing them and filling programs throughout the year.
Hmm. We
We
do have,
reach out to families also personally, and we call families to ask whether or not they're interested in transferring, to gauge whether or not that interest remains. I will say that oftentimes families may choose to remain in their school to finish out the year. So they might say, can I defer to next year? That's a possibility. So it depends.
Gotcha. We did
Mhm.
have a question. When it comes to languages for the DL and TBE programs, what other languages are offered besides Spanish and Mandarin?
For the bilingual special education programs, currently only Spanish and Mandarin are offered as a language of service.
And that's for special education.
Yes. For
Okay.
general education, it's a few more languages, definitely more.
Right, right. I
Mhm,
think I saw Polish even in Brooklyn. Uh,
mhm.
yeah.
One more thing that I'd like to add to that last question, JC, is that recommendations, the question that you asked before that, is that recommendations also oftentimes change. So we might be working on placement for a student that has an ICT Spanish recommendation, and then the recommendation changes to special class, or, the language of instruction changes back to English. So it really all depends on that particular child's IEP, and, where they're residing and the availability of programs.
Gotcha.
That's a
Okay,
great question.
we have a question here. Who is supposed to give this recommendation to attend the program? And can we get to this program if we do not have a program, for example, in our district, District 22?
Mhm,
And how old are children supposed to be to start the program?
mhm. So the IEP team, which includes you, the family, make this recommendation, right? So when the child has gone through a process of an evaluation, this is a conversation that is had amongst the team. So not just the school psychologist and the social worker and administrators or whatever the case may be, but also the family. You also have a say in this recommendation. And these programs particularly are for students in grades K through 12 in districts 1 through 32. These are the ones that we've discussed. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there are also programs in District 75, which are managed by a separate team. JC, did I miss a part of the question? Did I answer it fully?
I think you did. I think you did.
Okay,
If it's
okay.
not available in their district, what is
If
the?
it's not available in their district, we are able to offer out-of-district placements, and we have a conversation with the family. We explain, this is the closest school, and then it's up to the family to decide whether or not they would like to accept the offer that we're making, or if they would like to remain in their school with a bilingual paraprofessional. These are students that oftentimes, again, we always review continuously, and if a program is opened, we would reach out to that family to let them know if a new program is opened in the district and the student can be transferred there.
Okay, and we do have a question here. So thank you for this information. And what happens if a recommendation to a BSE program at a different school is made, but the family ultimately decides not to move their child to the different school?
The child would remain in their current school with the support of a bilingual paraprofessional who will be working alongside that teacher that is teaching in English to support the child and to meet the child's language needs.
Okay.
Mhm.
We did receive some pre-registration questions and I didn't want to overlook them. Bear with me one second. Can you put bilingual support
Oh,
services? Oh, sure, go ahead.
no, that's fine. I just opened up another thing. I was switching out. Ignore me. Go ahead.
Can you put bilingual support services on an IEP when the student is sitting in a monolingual class without an alternate placement, without an alternate place for my para?
Okay, so we want to be clear that, bilingual special education programs, as any special education service or support, is determined through the IEP process. So if it is determined that the child needs those supports, of a bilingual special education program through the evaluation process, they can be recommended on the IEP. And again, just a reminder, we can't repeat this enough, is, you are part of the IEP team. You are part of this decision.
No, always good to remember that. And that's something
Mhm.
to advocate for your child.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Whether it be that you want the program or don't believe that your child needs the program, right? Because it happens both ways, right? Families, for whatever reason, may feel that they don't believe that their child can be or should be supported in a bilingual program, and that's the family's choice that we must respect.
Sure. So even if, even if might not be the most ideal program,
Mhm.
as long as you suggest it, then it should be considered and fully explored.
Exactly. Mhm.
Another question, how should bilingual program decisions be made for children who have IEPs?
Okay, so yes, the presentation did cover the IEP process and how bilingual special education programs recommendations are made for students who may require both bilingual instruction and special education services and supports. So if you have any additional questions to that, we would definitely encourage you to review the presentation again. There's also a part here. Let me this barcode, if you point your camera to it, it will take you to our actually a special education page on the New York City DOE website that has several resources for families translated into different languages. But specifically, there is one for the Bilingual Special Education Family Guide, which summarizes all of the information that I covered today, and also the process for making this type of decision. And you'll also have the copy of the PowerPoint, which reviews exactly this question, which is, what are the questions that we want to ask when we're considering another language of service for a child?
Great, thank you. I just did it myself. It worked.
Great.
Question here, can related services like speech be bilingual, but the students sit in a monolingual class?
So again, this is a decision that's made by the IEP team. If they've deemed that this is appropriate for that particular child, then yes, it can certainly happen. But again, it's all very individualized to the student's needs and the stage of language acquisition that the student is at. So again, it all goes back to the IEP team, which I cannot say this enough. You are a part of the IEP team, and you have a say. If you're ever confused about things like that, feel free to ask the team to explain to you. Why is my child receiving this service in bilingually and this other service in English? That's a great question to ask.
We do have a couple of questions here, and I just want to address them separately. Are there more BSc programs in elementary schools compared to the middle schools and high schools?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Yes.
And
I had to think about that, but yes, there are there are more. We start, usually we start at the entry levels. Once the students are in the program, they might no longer need the services once they enter middle school or high school. So the need is a little lower for our older students, but there are several factors that impact why there are more elementary school programs and middle school programs, and let's in comparison to high school.
okay. And then Is there a difference in the way ELs are considered for BSE programs depending on their age?
No, it's all based on the IEP. There's no, as long as the child is under 21 years old and they are, eligible for an IEP, it's the same considerations that we've discussed throughout the presentation, the same guiding questions that we want to ask at the IEP team. As long as the student is learning a new language and is also eligible for one of those 13 classifications, this is a recommendation that can be considered for them regardless of the age, as long as they're under 21
Under 21, right.
for the IEP, right?
Sure. And then how is the Board of Education checking the paraprofessionals regarding their competency and skills, proficiency in speaking other languages? I like that question.
I like that question too, and I'm actually going to defer to Michelle on that one. So Michelle, would you please answer that question? Are you able to talk? I'm not sure if you're.
I can, yes.
Okay.
Hi. So that is a great question. So paraprofessionals receive support and training through the Department of Education, and hiring is done at the school level with support from the field office. So I don't know all the specifics, but there is support that is done for around determining proficiency levels of language for paraprofessionals. But again, the hiring is done at the school level.
Okay. Thank you.
In districts 1 through 32, these are the ones that we've discussed. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there are also programs in District 75, which are managed by a separate. Oh, what's happening? JC, did I miss a part of the question? Did I answer it fully?
I think you did.
75, which are managed by a separate. Oh, what's happening? JC, did I miss a part of the question?
I got it.
Okay, I was a little confused there. I was like, what's going on? Okay.
At its best, right?
Okay, yeah. Tell me about it.
Yes, we did have a webinar, and my colleague Diana Biagioli, who's with us today, we were talking about assistive technology and what is being done in bilingual special education with regard to assistive technology. Is it being provided, like, are there supports that are being implemented using devices for that to support these bilingual special education students?
So you have some really great questions, and I have to, I want to make sure that we answer them correctly. So the two questions about APP support or alternate placement para support and assistive technology, we have experts who work in our division who probably be better positioned to answer that question. Carolina and I work on the bilingual special education team. So that's supporting districts 1 through 32 schools in programming and in training on bilingual special education. But there are folks who are experts in those areas, and we want to make sure that you get those answers. So if you give me a little time, we'll be able to point you in the right direction. And I'll follow up with you, JC.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be great, because I know it was all on our minds that day, and I was just like, we got to bring that question up whenever we have Carolina and Michelle here in a couple weeks. So yes, that would be great. Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to include, once I receive that information, to follow up with everyone who's attended here today, so that you have those answers as well. I know we're all curious to know on those two, especially. Any other questions? Anyone? We might actually end early. Let me see. I do see one. Hold on. Can families choose to switch their student to another program, for example, from a TBE to a dual language program? And how difficult is it for a family to choose to remove a student from a BSE program? Thank you.
That's a great question. Yes, if a family, chooses one program model over another, and after they're already enrolled in one particular program, they can certainly reach out to their school, reach out to us directly, and we can guide them in the right direction. We can let them know if there is a program available. As we indicated in the beginning, oftentimes we're making these recommendations based on distance because we also know that that's very important for families to have their children close to them. And so if we've provided an offer, it's going to likely be the closest offer for that child. But we can also offer, programs that might be a little further away. If the family is willing to consider them, we can certainly help to coordinate that process. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be difficult. If the program is available, we can make the transfer. It really is all about whether or not the family would like to travel a longer distance to access the program type that they prefer.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Well, let me see if we have any questions on Facebook. I don't see any other questions. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for being here today and for answering our questions and really getting down to it, because it's really bilingual special education. I feel like we don't understand enough about, and we don't hear enough about it. So yes, I look forward to seeing the list of those schools so that we can share that information as well, and be sure to plug that whenever we're doing our advocacy. And I know fellow as well, if a parent is interested to suggest it in their IEP team meeting and have it considered seriously. And yes, Michelle, how long do you think that might take for the turnaround on those questions? I'm curious.
I'm hoping by the end of today or early next week.
Okay, perfect. All right. So for those attending, if there's any delay in me sending out a reply, I just want to include that as well in the follow-up email, okay? This presentation will be available on our Facebook page and YouTube page. It's already on our Facebook page immediately. In case you want to review it or share it, please feel free. And yes, thank you so much. I do have a quick poll for everyone, and it's really short. But ladies, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know everybody here is really appreciative, both on Facebook as well. So thank you so much. And we will see Michelle next week for the ACEs program. And then that will be on December 9th. And then on December 16th, she'll be back for the ASD Nest and Horizon programs. And then on the 22nd, she won't be with us, but we will have the District 75's AIMS program team here. So lots going on. Check out our calendar, and thank you so much. I'll go ahead and activate that poll. Ladies, I'll follow up with you later. Thank you, Carolina, so much, and thank you.
Thank you, JC, and thank you to all the families who joined us. Thank you for your attention today.
All right.